Good morning, students. Today we're going to be talking about the midpoint formula, which is related to the formula we learned yesterday with distance. But I actually think this one's a little bit easier on the calculator skills. So let's dive in. Let me actually adjust the light so it doesn't bother so much. So again, I'm going to start out with a basic statement about it so we understand it a little bit better. The midpoint formula is used to find the midpoint point exactly in the middle of 2 points on a coordinate plane. Again, we talked about midpoint before, but in regards to a one-dimensional thing like a number line. The difference now is we're in the second dimension where there's both an X and a Y axis, and that tends to complicate things just a little bit. Okay. So the midpoint of line segment AB, where A is x1, y1, and B is x2, y2, is found by MP for midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now this may seem a little bit weird, but what you're doing is you're finding the average between the x values, add up the two x values, divide by 2, and the average between the y values, add up the y's, divide by 2. So this is two separate calculations that you'll be doing to find both the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So it might help if you make a little note to yourself that the x coordinate of the midpoint is calculated with that fraction, and the y coordinate is calculated with that fraction. Because really the midpoint is just some point x comma y. So we have to figure out what the x value is and what the y value is. So let's take a look at an example. So for this, we will find the midpoint of line segment GH if G is 7, -5, and H is 9, -1. So just like yesterday, we have two different x and y coordinates. We have two x's and two y's. So we need to differentiate between the two so that we can plug it into our formula. But again, this is maybe less important than yesterday because you're just adding up your two x's and your two y's. So this is more of a formality. But if you like, you can still label x1, y1 and x2, y2. It definitely won't hurt. So now to find the midpoint, we're going to put it into the formula. So to find the x-coordinate, I'm going to do 7 plus 9, my two x's, divided by 2, comma, my two y's, so negative 5 plus negative 1 divided by 2. Now, unlike yesterday, you can't plug this whole thing into the calculator because it's going to get confused by that comma. Instead, take it one coordinate at a time. Find your x-coordinate, do 7 plus 2, or 7 plus 9 divided by 2, and then in a separate calculation, find your y-coordinate. Or of course, you can work it out by hand. So 7 plus 9 is 16, and negative 5 plus negative 1 is negative 6. Then if we divide those both by 2, we end up with 8, negative 3. So the midpoint is at 8, negative 3. Notice how this first one found our x-coordinate and the second one found our y-coordinate. If you ever have to work backwards, that's going to be an important thing to remember. And also remember, don't put this whole thing into the calculator. It will make it very confused. So just take it one fraction at a time. So let's see one more example. I think midpoint isn't too bad. You just add two numbers, divide them by 2, bada bing, bada boom. So for this one, we're going to find the midpoint of line segment AB. If A is negative 7, 4, and B is 3, negative 4. So once again, if you like, you can label them x1, y1, x2, y2. It'll never hurt. It's always good practice. And then plug into the midpoint formula. Do negative 7 plus 3. That's my two x values. And then 4 plus negative 4. I'm going to add the numbers on top. Negative 7 plus 3 is a positive 4. And negative 4, or rather 4 and negative 4 make 0. Now all I have to do is divide. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 0 divided by 2, well, that's 0. So here, the midpoint is at 2, 0. You don't always have to write that statement out. I just want to make sure we all understand what our answer means. That 2, 0 is the x and y coordinate of the midpoint between these 2 points. Sorry about that pause, there was an announcement. All right, So like I said, this is just the coordinate that's exactly between these two coordinate points. So if you actually plotted them on graph paper, you would find that it would be perfectly in the middle of those two. Now, they aren't always going to be whole numbers. If the numbers don't average out very well, then you could get a decimal, and it'll be something 0.5 unless your other things were decimals. So if you have a fraction or a decimal, don't worry too much about that. Just write it out. It happens. All right, so good luck for your assignment. These examples should be all you need to get through those, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.